Sinner and the Saint. I'm Melissa Bell.
And I'm Allison Kane.
So we had a great episode last week, and we said, ask deeper questions, dig deeper into things. And I was very vulnerable, from a very 10,000 foot view, just discussing how I was working through something.
Yeah.
And I did it for the whole week. And you want to know what?
What?
I got nothing.
I don't believe that for a minute.
Still digging, girl.
I think that's such a good reminder. When we discover things or notice emotions in ourselves, it can take a while to figure out the actual root cause. It's not something that you just go to God, you pray about a day, and you move on. It can take a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a few years. Not to discourage you.
I like to say the root is deep with this one, friends. The root is deep with this one.
Well, and it's because the heart is very deceitful. So that leads us to Jeremiah 17, verses 9 through 10. The heart is hopelessly dark and deceitful, a puzzle no one can figure out. But I, God, search the heart and examine the mind. I get to the heart of the human. I get to the root of things. I treat them as they really are, not as they pretend to be. Ooh.
That gives me hope for all my enemies.
Yeah.
Like, I can see right through you, and so can God. Oh, too much?
It's like that good prayer request.
Right. Oh, my God.
Inside joke, sorry. The heart... that is the reason it can be so hard and take so long to figure out the root of something, because our hearts, like scripture says, are hopelessly dark and deceitful. And it's a puzzle no one can figure out except for God. So if we're not with God in this process and listening for him and taking it before him and sitting and waiting and listening, we are never going to figure it out. Because we've created all these systems in our life, all these walls, these attachments to people and ideas and actions and thoughts. So it gives us a sense of control, and it acts as a protection to cover up what's really inside our hearts.
I feel like we just got an inside view of what's going on in your head right now.
Yeah.
Like, that was pretty animated for you.
Like,
you are living this right now.
Yes. It's so true, though. It's so eye-opening. We create these narratives in our minds. Our hearts do this thing, and they deceive us.
They're called feelings.
Well, yes, but they're also more than, it's ideas sometimes,
But are the ideas based on your feelings?
Or your experiences, which I guess can be feelings too. I don't know. It's probably a combo.
I ask you that because I don't have a lot of feelings, as you know. Yeah. I flop a lot of anger is my probably number one feeling. If I had to rank them.
Right.
Anger's number one, then maybe frustration.
Yeah.
And then exhaustion.
Yeah.
I think love's down there at number 5.
Oh gosh. Well, I think, right, but you never come across like that. And so, we create this sort of, it's not that you're pretend, because you're very real and honest and vulnerable, but we do need to, we sort of create these pretend selves. Our hearts deceive us into thinking certain things. And it's really hard to trust God with that letting him in so that he can treat things as they really are and as not as they pretend to be. That's hard to face the pretend self and to just be like, here you go, God. This is a tricky puzzle and you can figure it out. And now I'm going to have to face the facts.
So it's really interesting. I was listening to a podcast this morning, actually. And I don't even know who the guy was. My buddy, Ed Milet, he doesn't know me, but I know him. He was interviewing someone. And this guy was saying, when you take away people's identity, like you're saying, some people's identity can be in how they respond, how they're the really funny person.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden,
it's a cover-up.
But when someone says, hey, that is actually really offensive when you're sarcastic or you took away from the situation with your humor.
Right.
then they either get to deal with that or they get to walk away from that person. But the truth is, it's hard for them to get rid of that humor because that is how they're operating in an uncomfortable situation, which is exactly what you're talking about. The narratives.
Yes. Instead of sitting with God and getting to the root of why do I feel as if I have to use humor all the time to cover things up, because it's a cover.
I have a funny pickleball story.
Okay.
So my brother, he lives close to me now, and he had a birthday, and so at our house we don't just do like
shout out to Uncle Bill. We love you. Happy birthday.
Hi, Uncle Bill. We don't do just like a normal birthday. Like, we're going to be really tacky and obnoxious with things.
I love it.
Right. And
Not
so,
you.
not me. And so I said, oh my gosh. He said, I want to do a hobby with his fiance, soon to be wife. And so they said pickleball. I was like, great. I'm going to hook you up for your birthday. And then we had a pickleball party.
Oh.
And so I got him all this great gear. I got him really tacky wristbands and a headband. I mean, they're not tacky if you wear them all the time, but I'm just saying, look in the mirror maybe. And like knee-high socks that matched red, white, and blue, just so tacky. And then he put on one of William, my 12-year-old's football jerseys that was so tight. It was a crop top on him.
That is awesome.
Right. So we posed in it. We took pictures. I'll have to put a picture if he'll let me on social media. And he said, I said, I can't wait till you go on the court like that. These people are not going to know what to do. Right. So he put a t-shirt over it. Okay. Because he's the funny guy.
Yeah, he is.
Puts a t-shirt over it. And he gets to the court and he's like, I'm chickening out. I'm not going to do it.
Oh.
Because he knew, no, this is not the time or the place for that. I'm not the good friend. I'm like, do it, you chicken. Like, he's growing and I'm trying to pull him back.
Oh my gosh. Look at, oh.
Yeah. I was like, Melissa, you are the bad influence right now. He's growing and maturing and you're like, no, buddy, you're the funny guy.
Oh,
anyways, he never took his shirt off, so I'm proud of him.
Oh, good for him. Well, that is, we pay attention. So like when a baby cries, we're always like, okay, red alert. What is it? Do they need their diaper changed? Are they hungry? Or do they have a fever? Are they hurt? Are they whatever? And we check on things. So, same with the car. We use that all the time. And these things get our attention to let us know something's up, something's awry. But we don't do that with ourselves.
No.
When we have an extreme or just palatable emotion that you just feel, and it's like, where's that? We need to develop this intentional practice of sticking a pin in it right then, like pausing and remembering it. And then it might not be the time, in that moment to like take it to God, and journal.
Yes.
You might have to do that later.
And say like, why did I respond that way?
Yes, because the reaction is masking something. Always. So why am I so angry?
Oh, how much time we got?
Yeah. Right. But that could be, anger, like you said, is a big one. So, it could be based out of fear or insecurity or guilt or hurt or shame or sadness, but I don't know what. And you don't even know what. And Scripture tells us we ain't figuring any of that out without God. He's the only one that can unscramble the puzzle of our hearts and put it back together. But you're going to keep feeling anger unless you get to the root of whatever that cause is. And then, like resentfulness, that's a big one. People can just live life being resentful of others, what they have, what they do, a comparison. It could just go down to jealousy.
Yes.
A feeling of being taken advantage of for whatever reason. What else? Being mistreated by someone at some point. So you're just resentful. Usually this stuff has happened to us in childhood. If it's an overall theme that's followed you through life, every now and then, if it's like against just one person instead of in general,
it might
then
be
it's
them.
that particular person, right? So we're talking about just sort of general themes, not just you're resentful against one particular person. Because if it's against that one person, usually we know what it's from.
Right.
But the overall themes in our hearts are from have been patterns, is usually from situations from our childhood. Like, why do I feel this shame? Where is the shame coming from when I'm in relationships or social settings or, you know, business meeting or whatever it is, or as a parent, is it childhood trauma or neglect, things you have done or not done or had done to you?
Oh, D, all the above.
I mean, all of the above. You know, it's sitting with that and wondering, like, when you're in that situation, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel this right now. Why am I? Let me put a pin in that. I want to dig deeper into that. And then you begin, as you start sticking a pin in it, you begin to notice the patterns of where it occurs.
Yes.
Why it may occur, and keeping track of it. And then guilt is another one. People tend to have themes of guilt that run through their lives about everything, like guilty about not being a good enough parent, guilty about not working hard enough or volunteering enough or doing enough, or, you know, so maybe you grew up with high standards, I don't know, in your family, or an unhealthy past relationship, a difficult upbringing. I mean, I don't know. It could be a multitude of things. It's not like some easy answer, but God's got it. We can't figure it out.
That was a Christian platitude. Strike that last statement.
But he does have it. God has the answers. So we have to be listening, and we have to be taking it to him to figure it out, and being okay with figuring it out. Having the courage. It takes a lot of courage. And it's not fun. In fact, often it feels so bad that you feel as if you're losing it. Like it's all unraveling, you're falling apart, things seem 1,000 times worse, and you're like stripped down to the bone.
It's kind of like when you go to clean out your closet and it just has to get really messy before you can clean it out.
Yes.
Just piles everywhere.
Yes.
And you're like, what have I just done?
And then you just want to throw the towel in and just, yes.
Yeah, take a nap.
But then it's still there when you come back from your nap
Oh, yeah.
or your Netflix or whatever else you're doing. Exactly. But then when it is clean and you've dropped off the donations and you've given the other things away, or you've sent them to consignment, and you have this nice clean closet, you're like, oh, this is great.
Now let's not invite that stuff back in.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what God can do. You know, I think we get caught up into this. I think of Gypsy, my dog.
The dog, okay.
Yeah. I call it the Gypsy life.
Oh, she's got a good life.
She does. But she is so hyper vigilant and so scaredy cat of everything. She's just, it's always like she's on pins and needles. I kid you not, last night we were falling asleep in bed. She sleeps right there with us. And Matt dropped his phone or something as he was setting his alarm, and he dropped it on the nightside table. And that dog, I swear, it was like one of those old cartoons where the cats jump up and their claws like reach into the ceiling and they're hanging upside down.
Oh gosh.
She jumped straight up, terrified. She's so hyper vigilant. Like, she hears anything, she's on it. But all the time, it's like she's never resting. And I think that's what we do. We get so hyper vigilant about everything going around in our lives. What's on the schedule today? What am I missing? I need to do my Bible study. What about the kids? What about this decision? La, 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 la. We're just worried about things. We're trying to control things that we don't take the time to sit with God long enough. To just sit and listen and figure things out.
Yeah, because sometimes when you sit with him, he gives you the truth. That hurts.
It does.
He's like, oh, by the way, let's work on this today. Oh, do we have to?
I'm really tired from last time.
Let me go to the Psalms and read something about God today.
Yeah, like, my feelings are still hurt from last time we had this conversation about me.
So it's really interesting because we're surrounded by people that don't want to deal with their stuff.
Yeah.
All of us are.
It's a protection mode, self-protection.
It is, but when you start to lead the way with this, and you just continue to show up genuinely, authentically, and show people how you're processing,
yeah,
it gives them fuel for their fire to process.
That's beautiful. It's so true. And it goes so much farther than pushing it down their throats.
Right. And it's so I come from a little bit of a different background. And so I have lots of triggers and lots of trauma responses and those sorts of things. And so I've learned to say, hey, honey, so this makes me feel this way, or I'm responding this way because of this. And I want you to know I'm aware I'm responding this way, and I'm sorry, and I'm working through it, or whatever it is,
But
and
you
so
acknowledge it.
I say it out loud.
That's so great.
And probably 8 months after I started talking like this, whenever something comes up, he out of the blue said, hey, I want you to know that the reason why, and I didn't ask him, but I did notice that response. That was a theme in our marriage. He said, the reason I respond this way is because of XYZ. And I said, whoa. But it wasn't because I said, do you know that you respond that way every single time?
Which is what you wanted to say.
Every single time.
But you did not. You refrained. You stayed in your circle.
I did.
This is a hard practice. It's not easy looking closely at yourself and realizing that you've had a lot of things wrong. I mean, there are things that that have shifted in me that God has brought to my attention that I would have, gone to battle for.
Right.
Like ideas or concepts or whatever, or thought patterns or whatever it was. And now I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
But to be able to say, you know what? I was just so wrong about that. I don't even know. I was on a different place in my spiritual journey.
I was on a different place in my journey, but now I've grown.
There's our little spiritual platitude number 2. Well, I thought some good questions that we can ask ourselves are, this week maybe, what's worthy of my attention this week? Like, what should I be spending my attention on? And I mean, that's a hard question sometimes, because if we don't truly sit and think about it, we could fill it up. Like, we could fill up a whole page. But if I'm sitting before the Lord and he's like, what's worthy of your attention this week, Allison? And I'm considering God asking me that question, that totally shifts it for me.
I went for a walk as usual, just, I don't know, a couple days ago. And normally I read something or give myself something to think about while I'm walking. Well, that day I just couldn't think of anything. I mean, I read something, nothing came to mind, blah, blah. And so I'm like, hey, God, just walking. I don't know what you want to talk about. I wish I came with something.
Yeah.
Because what he brought up, I was not ready for.
That's the beauty. See, we always come to God with our own agendas.
Yeah.
In our prayer lives and whatever, it's like he's a spiritual, magic 8-ball or a slot machine, that we're pulling it. But just going to him with open arm or open hands and just saying, what do you have for me today? That's vulnerable.
Oh, it's still shaking me.
Yeah. That's a good example. Or even just, what are you feeling today? Just when waking up, stopping, pausing for a moment, considering that question like, okay, what am I feeling today?
So this is funny, actually, because, I always say, I sit in bed and I say, what do I get to do today? But that's a platitude.
Ooh.
To say, what do I get to do today? Because now I'm already deciding that I'm going to put a positive spin on whatever I encounter.
Right.
Rather than going, what am I feeling right now? And then going, why am I feeling that?
Huge. And we're not saying there's something wrong with a positive attitude, y'all. But where is your joy and your positivity coming from? Because if it's from self and forced,
right,
it's fake.
Right.
It's pretend. But if it's rooted in the faith and trust of the Lord and taking things to him and trusting in him with those things, and saying, what can these emotions that I'm feeling right now tell me what I need to let go of? That's real positivity.
Yeah, and I think
that
it's okay.
Cannot be taken away by a bad situation.
Yeah, I think it's okay for them to live at the same place. I get to do this today. Right now I'm feeling this. And if you keep feeling that every single morning, you might need to figure out why you feel that every morning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, hard stuff, y'all. But grow. I mean, it's so awesome to get to the other side and figure when God has helped you figure out a piece of the puzzle of our hearts that's so scrambled and so deceitful, as our scripture says today. I mean, it is inspiring, and it really grows a deeper trust and faith, not in God, well, of course in God, not only Him, but in our connection with Him and our ability to hear His voice and to respond to it, which just makes the next time, I'm not going to say easier, because you just don't know, but it's certainly familiar, and there's a deeper trust that does, in some sense, make it easier, even if the situation isn't.
Agreed.
Yes, and nobody can take away that from you. No matter what the situation, people can't take away that positivity and that trust and strength in the Lord when you've worked it out with Him.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, food for thought. I hope y'all have a great week. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to being with you next week on The Sinner and the Saint.